Hi, this is Maria from mariairving.com, and today I wanted to speak about the spiritual chemicalization process. It happens when we are doing something like changing our life for the better in whatever area it is. It could be relationships or inner, like our relationship with ourselves, work, finances, health, whatever it is, something that we're making new changes in life. We're transforming an area of our lives. And when we have done a lot of inner work, we have, released limiting beliefs and negative beliefs and things like that. We have done all that, the inner work. Then when you come to the end of that, there is you can just feel it energetically. It's you have done the work. And then, the old level of consciousness or the ego, the old you, comes up with like really intensely because it resists that change. It will put up a fight, and that creates a massive internal conflict. There's internal chaos that goes on that can be incredibly intense and challenging. And it happens because we have stirred up our current or the old state of consciousness, and are moving into the new level of consciousness. So it can be incredibly intense and unsettling, really challenging on many levels, not only on the internal, but also in the external life. Like everything seems to go wrong, things are falling apart, and there's a lot of doubt, fear, and things that you thought you had like worked through 10 years ago, let's say. If you're going through a chemicalization process, those old things could come up again and just flare up and just go after you, basically. But it's really important to understand that when this happens, nothing is actually going wrong. This happens because we're being made new mentally. Our thoughts and beliefs are changing, they're being upgraded. And there is a clash within the old level and the new level of consciousness. And this can bring, a lot of resistance and internal conflict and upheaval and things like that. It happens because we have exposed deeply rooted negative and limiting belief systems. We are poking around, and we have been working through those beliefs and remove them from our consciousness. And so these things, it's normal. So it's crucial that you don't give up. And because thoughts you will have thoughts coming up that are bringing a lot of doubt to you and fear and things like, I guess this was never meant to be, or maybe healing is just not possible for me, and that kind of thoughts. But these are just remnants of the old belief systems that are it's the old self that is trying to hold you back or keep you in the old level of consciousness. So it's really important to understand this and to keep affirming and reminding yourself that many times the worsening of situations and like experiencing setbacks and things like that, when you have come to the end of your inner work, and then when this stuff start to happen, it's actually a sign of progress. It's just the old limiting crap that is coming back, and it tries to scare you and intimidate you, and it gets to you. But you just keep holding on to the truth of who you are and keep affirming. Remind yourself that it's a process, it's temporary, and the more you can surrender to that, the faster you will progress through it. But it can be really very, very uncomfortable. Like you can't even breathe sometimes. It's so tense, But if you first of all have awareness of this, then it gets so much easier. And remind yourself to think that this too shall pass, because it will. And once you're on the other side of it, you will be in a 1,000 times better place within yourself. I promise you. I have been through this a million times before in my life, and I see this in clients too. So it's important to not engage with the old. That's what it wants. That's why it comes after you with all the fears and, intense, it wants you to get hooked. It wants you to go back to the old state of consciousness, because it's actually the old state is dying. So that's why it's like trying to like scramble and like stay as the operating state in your consciousness. But you have to realize that you have to let that go. So keep affirming things like, I'm safe, everything is going well, the universe has my back, I'm being healed, healing is happening, alignment is happening, whatever it is that you're working on or have worked on that has created this upheaval. And remember, it's just the consciousness in conflict between the old and new level. So it's an agitation that happens between the old way of thinking and the new way of thinking. The old way of being, the old way of believing, and the new way of believing. And you are going to have a breakthrough. You will, if you just keep going, keep doing the affirmations and everything. And the more intense it is, see it as a sign that you're really on to something. Because if it wasn't, like if you already are in that space where it's massively intense, that just means that you're really on to something. Otherwise, the old self or the ego self wouldn't put up such a fight or resist as much as it does. So keep affirming health, love, peace, abundance, all truth of life and all that stuff. And don't let thoughts of anything else take hold of you again. And remember, it's like a deep cleaning out or a cleansing process. And once you're on the other side of it, you will be mentally new. You will have a new state of mind, a new state of consciousness, and you will live from a new state of consciousness. And so this is a process of where you're expanding your consciousness and you're being renewed and restored to the truth of who you are. Capital T. And that means the truth of who you are. It's not the fearful one. It's not the worried one. It's not the depressed one, anxious one. That's not the truth of who you are. So it's normal that when you start challenging the old thoughts and beliefs with new ones, the ego is going to push back, and sometimes very, very strongly, like insanely, insanely strongly. And things can start falling apart on the outside too, and get worse. But sometimes, I'm not talking about like health-related challenges now, but that happens too. Sometimes in a healing process, things get worse before it gets better. So this goes with anything else too. That manifestations and things like that, before they are realized, things are falling apart, or like it seemingly goes wrong. But you don't actually know what's happening, but the thoughts make it worse, because the ego comes in and tells you that, oh, you will lose everything, or you will lose someone if it's a person, or that you're failing and things like that. But when it feels like everything is going wrong in this specific process, it's the chemicalization process. Your new thoughts are replacing the old outdated ones, but the old ones don't want to let go. So the ego will come at you very strongly. And when it seems like everything is falling apart, know that it's all part of the process and nothing is actually going wrong. It just seems that way, especially for the small, limited, scared self. Chemicalization is actually a sign that good things are happening. So whatever happens, remain as peaceful and aligned as you can and free from fear. And remember that you are birthing the manifestation of truth into your life. And then when the dust settles, then only truth will remain. And the new you is born. So you have not done anything wrong, and you have not, fallen off your path, and nothing is going wrong. It's all falling together for you. And sometimes the purpose of this kind of stormy internal weather, so to speak, is to clear the path. And this is where huge breakthroughs come from, and accomplishments and realizations and things like that. They are the outcomes of this kind of process if you just keep believing that good things will follow once it's over. And when you come to the end of the chemicalization process, then you will begin to feel more and more peace. You will feel joy, connectedness. And this is also when things that you have been affirming for or working for, they will begin to manifest in the outer reality. But it can be very intense in this process. But it's really important to understand this. Or the small mind or the limited self can't understand, what is coming next. But everything starts to kind of fall together or come together by itself when you surrender to it. When you let go, when you allow the process to do what it's meant to do in your life, that's when you begin to see the results of all your inner work on the external world too. So, for example, health returns, you feel more abundant, money comes, you may get a new opportunity or a new job, or something suddenly and unexpectedly happens, or have some kind of achievement or success in an area that you thought were out of your reach. Or you might attract and draw into your life more healthier and more loving relationships, things like that. So things will just start to happen in your life, and life will begin to feel so much better than ever before. This always takes us to the next level. It takes us higher. And you will see people, sometimes this process also brings us into a kind of a solitude phase, where you just want to be with yourself or just talk to someone who you can trust. And but then when you are on your way out of it, people are starting to get friendlier to you and nicer, and you just feel a new sense of happiness and connection and things like that. And then harmony and peace is back. So things will improve if you are in the midst of a process like this. You will come out on the other side, and then it will feel like a huge weight has been lifted. But until then, stay with it and trust the process, and let everything fall into place on its own. Let things complete themselves, because you did the work, and then you came to the end of that, and then this chemicalization process kicked in. So this is really important to understand. Otherwise, you can get stuck. Sometimes people get stuck, and because it can be incredibly confusing. It can be intense, and you feel completely lost, even like hopelessness, and it could go even deeper and go into depression and things like that. But when you know what this is, then it also gets easier to go through. So I help people with this with my clients. So if you're interested in working with me, go to mariairving.com/sessions and see what we can do together. But remember that you can be in a so much more peaceful and confident state once you have awareness of these things. Then it's easier to surrender to the process, and then you go through it much faster too. So I hope this was helpful to you, and I will also leave a link in the description with articles that can be helpful to you if you can relate to anything that I have talked about here, and they will be helpful to you as well. All right, hope you have a great day, and see you in the next video.